Hey, Simply Sugar here with the evening news rundown. Let's get right to it. So, 252 Venezuelan migrants were returned to Venezuela from CCOT. We learned that there was a three-country prison swap happening between the United States, Venezuela, and El Salvador. I'm happy that the 252 Venezuelans left that death camp, that concentration camp. I am upset that they were not returned to the United States to receive their due process. You know, the Trump administration wanted to say that these people were criminals and part of a gang, and it turns out that most of these people are just hardworking people. So it's a little bit of a disappointment, but according to El Salvador, once you check into that facility, you don't check out, no matter what your crime is. Once you're there for life. So I'm happy to see that these people got somewhere. I hope somewhere safe. We shall see, but they are making statements, they are giving interviews, and the early descriptions of what took place in El Salvador as bad as we all thought. And to think that the U.S. is now modeling their ICE facilities after CCOT, with the 24-hour lights on, in cages, we haven't heard of beatings, but I'm sure that's happening, and other violations and other human rights violations, period, because, they're not letting people toward these facilities to check to see what they are doing. So no checks and balances there. Now, if you remember, because people like to forget, that a judge found probable cause for criminal contempt against the Trump administration for deporting these Venezuelans after the injunction went through. A whistleblower's emails revealed that the DOJ officials insisted on proceeding, and we quote, no matter what. So we know this was purposely done. We shall see what comes of it. Also hitting the headlines is journalist Mario Guevara remains in ICE custody, even though his charges were dropped. So we're waiting to see what happens. Again, it's just stifling freedom of the press, which we know that's part of Project 2025. And I know we keep beating that drum too, but it's important to remember that this is by design. Maria Farmer, the first person to report abuse by Jeffrey Epstein in 1996, told the New York Times and FBI in 96 and in 2006 that Donald Trump appeared in Epstein's Manhattan office and made her uncomfortable. She pressed authorities to investigate Trump's ties to Epstein. This is according to an article released in the New York Times. Farmer's story is now part of a lawsuit accusing the federal government of failing to act on her warnings, a development fueling renewed scrutiny of the Trump-Epstein connections. There are many connections. They're connected. They acted in concert, allegedly. She is not the only person to speak up. There's many, many stories and many, many lawsuit and cases involving Epstein and naming Donald Trump in particular. People are focusing on Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, but there have been other accusers, and there have been other lawsuits that have been filed. They're part of the public record. This, as we learned that J.D. Vance visited Rupert Murdoch ahead of these articles being dropped. So it's very interesting, the timing of all of this. I don't believe in coincidences, so we'll just wait to see when the other shoe drops in reference to all of this. And just giving a little update on what's happening with the layoffs, the Trump administration has cut over 275,000 federal jobs in 2025, including 128,000 forced layoffs across agencies like NASA, Education, GSA, and CFPB. These moves follow a Supreme Court-backed right to size directive. So we have the federal government continuing to fire and downsize, and just strip our government to the bone as they rake in millions and give billionaires, tax cuts. That's the evening news rundown. And let me know your thoughts. I'm Simply Sugar.